morning, everyone, and welcome back to El Barrio. My name is Ralph Hernandez, and we have Amona White with us here. We're interviewing two city court judges, trying to find out more about the judicial process and how things work in city court, bringing you that information for future reference should you ever have to see the need to pay any visit to these courts, which I hope you don't. But with us this morning, we have the Honorable Joseph Fiorella, who has been, how long have you been on the bench now, sir?
10 years, almost 10 years.
10 years. And that recently appointed Susan Eagan also on the bench. She'll be doing, what area do they have you assigned?
I'm doing a criminal calendar right now. I've been on the bench for 6 months, and I'm ready to go back in intake in July.
Okay. Judge Eagan, when you deliberate to make a decision on sentencing, on what besides reading all the different cases and getting a good idea of what would be a fair approach to the sentence, what other factors do you take into consideration in making that decision?
Well, sentencing is, I think, one of the more challenging parts about the job, because it's the last time you have contact with that individual, and you have to decide what the purpose is for the sentence, whether it's a crime that requires and calls for a punitive response, or whether this is an individual that has some underlying issue, is a victim of circumstance in some way. And if you, as part of the sentence, can fashion some response to that underlying issue, you may be able to break that cycle. And you may create a situation where you'll never see that person in city court again. And so those are the factors that I'm often considering. And quite a few of the cases, you sentence almost right away after the plea. In other circumstances, when it's a more serious offense, in city court, the most serious offense that we can resolve is a misdemeanor. I will order what's called a pre-sentence investigation, which involves then the Erie County Probation Department in doing an investigation of that individual, and it's a very thorough report that we get with starting from when they were born to their educational experience to their family life to where they are now, and they get input from the victim, and so then that's a very comprehensive report that gives me some guidance as far as the right response. But I'm always trying, my first instinct is how do we fix this problem? And I do find it very difficult to look someone in the eye and sentence them to a long term of jail, because I don't feel like that always solves the problem. But it is a very challenging part about the job.
Good. Well,
Judge Fiorella, how often do you see repeat offenders in your courtroom?
I used to have an uncle who worked for the water authority, and they asked him, how much water does the Colonel War pumping station pump a day? There was some person in from out of town, and his response was lots and lots of water. So my response is lots and lots of times.
Lots of times.
We have tremendous repeat offenders. And most of that, I know that the police and the DAs and whoever else is associated with city court, they probably like to lay that on the judges, that we're easy sentencers, or we didn't do the right thing. But most of the times when they go through the system, it comes out at the end that the judges really can't do much. For instance, a person will come in, they're charged with the police with a E felony, some type of assault, right? Well, by the time the case comes before us, the district attorney may take that case, reduce those charges, and make them an A misdemeanor. Then when the case comes finally back to resolve, they plea it down to a disorderly conduct. Disorderly conduct, the stiffest sentence you can give them is 15 days. They've already been in jail maybe longer than that. So what do? Time served, they go out the door, they commit some other kind of crime, and they're right back in. That's why I love this new program I'm in, the alcoholic program that I was talking about, because it works. We get a very low rate. The rate you're talking about is called recidivism. Yes. When a person recommits the same type of crime. We have a recidivism rate in this DUI program of between 8 and 10%.
Oh my. Wow.
Which is tremendously low.
That's great. Okay, Judge Eagan, if you were the person responsible for deciding what cases would be tried in what order, how would you split the court's time between criminal calendar and the civil calendar?
Well, I think the criminal cases absolutely have to take priority because oftentimes as in the example that Judge Fiorella was talking about, you have someone that's in custody. They're sitting in custody waiting for their case to be resolved. And the prosecution has the burden of proof, and if they don't meet that burden, then that person gets out of custody. And so out of fairness to that individual, you have to prioritize those cases. And even when it's not a situation where someone is in custody, you've got a lot of people involved in it, whether it's the victims of the crime, whether there's an outstanding order of protection. There's a lot of issues that are very sensitive that need a resolution, and the longer they go on, the harder it gets to resolve them. And so in my opinion, criminal is definitely the priority.
Okay. Oh, no, what do you got? One more.
One more.
One more.
Do you see people from a specific socio-economical background or class more so than in other classes or with other socio-economical backgrounds? The reason I ask is because sometimes when people don't have as much, they perhaps have more idle time to do other things.
Poor people or rich people?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a direct correlation between your socioeconomic status and the frequency with which you come through Buffalo City Court. And, we are very fortunate to have the public defenders in City Court, and they're sitting in the intake parts, and they interview every defendant at arraignment to determine if they qualify. And I've never looked at the numbers. I don't know what if Judge Fiorella can fill in that statistic, but the vast majority of people before me are represented by the public defender, which is an income-based service. So there is absolutely a connection between the socioeconomic status and the people that we see.
Now let me ask both of you, just like on a family note, you're both married, have children, grandchildren? Judge?
I am married for 35 years to my lovely wife, Donna. Donna was, as I said before, a school teacher for over 30 years in the Buffalo school system. She rose to be a program director at School 64, Olmsted School, which is a very
good school.
Very prestigious job.
Yes.
Tremendous program there. And I have two wonderful children. I have a son, 34, that works for the city and he has his own landscaping business. And I have a daughter, 30 years old, Sarah, and she is a teacher at Olmsted.
Okay.
So we have
Following the tradition.
We have a great family, and we reside on the west side of Buffalo, and very happy there, and been there for almost 30 years.
Great. Judge Eagan?
I am also married. My husband, Jim, is also an attorney, and we have two beautiful children, Riley and Katie. Riley's 9 and Katie's 7, and they go to Catholic Academy of West Buffalo, and I live in the same neighborhood as Judge Fiorella on the west side, and we're very happy there.
Good.
Our children are beautiful.
Great.
I could vouch for that.
Okay. Well, folks, that's about it. That wraps it up for us. Anything, Amona, on your end? We got to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching this morning, and
Thanks again.
We'll see you the next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Having us here.
Great.